Welcome to Stop the Fight, episode 30. And today we're just talking miscellaneous boxing. Let's go.
Don't brag about taking my side piece. Don't brag about taking my side piece, though.
I broke my back. Back is broken. Spinal.
And he's strong, man. Good boy. Just.
Now, I didn't mention it in the post-fight because we only talked about Valdez and Robson, but I'll talk about the triller card right now. So we had the Anderson Silva and Tito Ortiz fight. Now, Anderson Silva is proving to be a smooth operator. He absolutely laid down a highlight reel knockout over Tito Ortiz. It was over in the first round. It was picture perfect. The only problem was against Tito Ortiz, who's not a boxer and has been kind of out of the serious fight game for nearly a decade now. So there's not much to say other than the fact that Anderson Silva is a talented guy, and he'll keep getting boxing fights as long as he wants them. No fight with him is a farce, even against a legit boxer, unless, of course, a championship boxer. As we saw with Julio Chavez Jr., he beat him, and I thought he beat him, well enough. What does Tito Ortiz do? He says he kind of liked the learning experience. He was flattened. Tito, you were flattened and knocked out at 46 years old. You were faced forward on the canvas when that fight ended. You don't need to try this again. You need to, if you want to learn boxing in a gym, that's one thing. You need to stay away from a professional ring. I'm sorry, my man. I wish you were 16 or 26, to learn the game. I'm sure you could have made a pretty good boxer. You're a nice, strong guy. You were a very respected fighter in your own sport of MMA back in the day. But for a 46-year-old to start learning the game of boxing, I'm sorry, but your time has passed. You can't be getting knocked out like that. You look like, also, to be frank, you look like your chin is gone. And Anderson didn't. Yeah, the shots that he landed on you were good, but they weren't that good. You shouldn't have been completely knocked out. I mean, of course, they said you were weight drained, and I agree. Maybe that was all true. But from someone who has watched boxing particularly, for the better part of 15 years, I will say that you look like you are shop-worn and you don't have a chin. It is dangerous for you to continue fighting, and you should not be granted a license. Now, again, to bring this up, there's some controversy. Apparently, none of these fights were legit fights. That is, of course, misleading is the way it was sold. It was sold as professional, legitimate fights. They were not. They were not, guys. Okay. Congratulations, Anderson Silva. Tito Ortiz, please, if you want to fight, like I said, fight outside of the ring or in a boxing gym. Don't take it in the professional game. And let's talk about the main event. Evander Holyfield versus Vitor Belfort. Guys, this was, oof. I thought Holyfield would win. I didn't expect Holyfield to look as poor as he did. He was falling all over himself. The ref did the right thing in stopping the fight. Holyfield looked very old in there. I don't even know how they even attempt to do the Tyson thing, because Tyson looked nowhere near as bad as Holyfield did when he fought Roy Jones. Tyson looked fine for an older fighter. Evander, I'm sorry, but the ref did the right thing. You could have gotten really hurt out there. I don't know what this tells us about Belfort. I know they were trying to salvage the card, since Oscar De La Hoya got COVID. But, I don't know. That was not... I would not be happy if I paid for that. Let me tell you. And, as it seems here, Peter Kahn, who was the chief boxing officer at Triller, has now stepped down. I think it may have something to do with what's occurring with not only that, what has occurred with this pay-per-view getting canceled the way it has, them, not getting Jake Paul fighting on Showtime, but also with, there seems to be a lot of issues with the Kambosos Teofimo Lopez fight. From what I understand, we still can't buy the event or whatnot. Like, there's no way to even look at the event. I mean, Triller is, I mean, there are growing pains. The Zone had him too. Some people say the Zone still has him. I like the Zone a lot. Triller seems like it's more entertainment rather than boxing. Everything I've seen from Triller, every single fight, even with Michael Hunter, was, it was more set up for entertainment than it is for boxing. Guys, sorry for the yawns. More set up for entertainment than it was for boxing. And you kind of have this continuation here. So now Peter Khan is resigning. Will it lead to changes? Will they drop boxing entirely? Who knows? We'll see what happens with this Teofimo fight. Now let's talk about, that's it. I'm kind of done talking about it the other week. Again, I'm going to reiterate. I thought Oscar Valdez lost that fight. I had it, I think, and I gave Oscar Valdez the benefit of the doubt in all these rounds I scored for him. 114, 113 for Constancio Robson. And I think that was as close as you can possibly have it. Realistically, I thought Valdez could have won as little as maybe 3 rounds. I recently watched the fight again. Valdez does not look good in there, guys. He lost the fight. He was beat up. He was outlanded. I'm sorry. I have no idea what the fuck. I'm sorry for the cursing. I have no idea what the announcers were calling when watching that fight. It looked pretty one-sided. Honestly, if the scores were like, 117, 110, I wouldn't complain for Robson. Whatever. Anyway, let's talk about this weekend. Now, we don't have much this weekend, but we have, and I've spoken about this fighter before. He's fighting tonight on a Thursday. Sergey Bagachuk is fighting. He's kind of rebuilding. Remember, he was defeated. He was defeated back by Brandon Adams on March 4th. It was quite a pretty big upset, because Bagachuk at that point was undefeated. And to have him knocked out in such a fashion by a fighter he was supposed to beat. Now, of course, yes, he went to Puerto Rico. He's traveling around, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, you're supposed to, if you're an up-and-coming fighter, you can't be getting knocked out like that. Of course, these things happen. But you got to rebuild. And he looked good in the Brandon Bao fight. Knocked him out right away. And now we have him against Rafael Igbokwe. And this is taking place here in the States. So the rebuilding of Bagachuk continues. I expect this guy is pretty talented. I don't know if he's world level yet. It's still to be, the jury's still out on that. I hope he is. Again, I like world-class fighters. I like world-class boxing. I hope that, I wish Bagachuk the best, and I can't wait to see him. We have an upcoming fight now. Again, this is not this weekend. I'm a little bit all over the place on this episode because, whatever pops in my head. There is no big fights this weekend, so whatever pops in my head is what I'm going to talk about. Dillian Whyte, Otto Wallen. This I actually really like for both fighters. Because, like I told you, Dillian Whyte, unfortunately, may sit for upwards of a year since his victory over Povetkin. I mentioned it back in March after he beat Povetkin too. Who is he going to fight? He needs a title belt. But who does he fight? So we have Wilder, Tyson Fury. But if this fight is close, this third fight with Wilder and Tyson Fury, you're going to get a fourth fight, right? And Joshua absolutely wants the fight against the winner of Wilder, Tyson Fury. So he's going to do that. This is like he's going to wait a year. He's got to stay busy. And who better to stay busy against than the guy who gave Tyson Fury maybe his toughest fight in over 2 years or so? Otto Wallen. Now, if you guys haven't seen the Otto Wallen versus Tyson Fury fight, you guys should go watch him. I thought Tyson Fury won the fight quite clearly, but a giant gash was opened by Otto Wallen. He showed that he belonged in the ring with Tyson. As a matter of fact, if the fight was stopped by the doctors, which it could have been, Tyson Fury would have lost as that punch was opened up by a cut. That would have been a huge upset. Huge upset. Of course, the doctors let it continue, and I think there was a little bit of boxing politics involved. Tyson Fury's cut was bad. Bad enough where the doctors could have stopped it. The reason why it was allowed to continue, I believe, was that Otto Wallen is literally who? He's some unknown Swedish guy who, doesn't have much charisma in, like, not the way that Tyson Fury does. Certainly not, if you're a promoter, and you have both Tyson Fury and Otto Wallen in your stable, you under no circumstances want Otto Wallen to be the head of your stable. Why? Because it's hard to sell him. He's got that little, Swedish accent. He's not a particularly huge puncher. He doesn't do anything particularly amazing in the ring. So if he beats a showman like Tyson Fury, who the whole world knows, well, you lost a lot of money. That's just my personal take. I have no evidence to prove that that's what happened, but I personally believed that people whispered in the ears of the doctor that you are not stopping this fight. Unless Tyson Fury's about to die, you're not stopping this fight. Because I've seen fights stopped for significantly smaller cuts than what we saw in Tyson Fury versus Otto Wallen. Again, guys, go watch it. Go watch it. It was right in the eye. It was a cut that was very dangerous. Tyson Fury could have affected his career very negatively because it affected his life negatively, as he could have went blind in that eye. But they let it continue. And Otto Wallen, remember, he caused it with a punch. Otto Wallen landed a significant amount of shots on Tyson Fury, and he really hurt him in the 12th as well, if I remember correctly. So this is a very legitimate test for both Wallen and Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte loses here. I think he's out of the picture for a long time. Not even a year, much longer. Because who does he fight then again? Does he go back to Chisora? Where does he go? Who's gonna, maybe the losers of one of these Tyson Fury fights, but not even. Maybe an Usyk. I don't even think so. I think he loses here. It is a long, long way up from that point. And with Otto Wallen, I have a feeling, I don't know what the odds are. I don't know if they've been announced yet. And I don't think so, but I have a feeling he's going to be a pretty significant underdog. At least that's the way I would see him. Probably at a plus 200, plus 250. I guess pretty significant. Significant enough. Which may be a decent bet, but I don't think he is going to. I don't think he'll cause Dillian Whyte that much trouble. Why? Because I just saw him against Dominic Breazeale, and he didn't look all that. Yes, he won the fight. Yes, it was wide, but you gotta kind of really punish a guy like Breazeale if you're Otto Wallen. You really have to punish him. You can't let him hang around. He's not the kind of guy who should be hanging around with you, especially not if you're going to be taken serious as like a heavyweight contender, regardless of what you did to Tyson Fury 2 years ago. Regardless, it's Tyson Fury. He probably was just like, who am I fighting? Oh, I gotta do this. Yeah, whatever. Probably got up and trained for 2 weeks for the fight, if I had to take a guess. So that's what people are thinking anyway. I'm just letting you guys know. That's what the majority of people are thinking, is that Tyson Fury didn't take him seriously enough. And he still beat him relatively comfortably. It was at least, I thought, 8-4. I really didn't think it was any closer than 8-4. I remember watching the fight. I just thought it should have been stopped by way of cut. But if that cut doesn't happen, this fight's not close at all. All right, so again, the Jake Paul saga, simply because it's staying in the news. It's getting a little bit sour. Recently, I heard that Jake Paul got into a little verbal confrontation over the internet with what's his name, the Cuban fighter that I can't, Masvidal. Now that is a fight that Jake Paul definitely does not need. Masvidal has legit hands. And he's a big guy. Absolutely not the fight for Jake Paul. No, forget about it. This isn't Tyron Woodley. Masvidal is gonna fight. No, and he's got pop. This is like, if I were Jake Paul, I wouldn't do it. Hell, if he beats Masvidal in a boxing match, I'd have a lot of respect for him. But I don't think Masvidal. I don't think that's the fight you need if you're Jake Paul. Like, there's a lot more big money fights out there for Jake Paul, and it's not Masvidal. Not saying that Masvidal is a small fight. I'm sure it's a big fight. It's a very high risk fight if you're Jake Paul. And we have some more kind of revelations. Shane Mosley said that he bet $1 million on himself to beat Canelo in 2012. Oof. And he only made $600,000 on that fight. That's quite something. Shane Mosley's last real win, if I remember correctly, was against, and this is a big one, was against Antonio Margarito. And that was a huge win. Margarito at that point was coming off the plaster controversy. It was, it was like turning back the clock, but that was in 2009. Afterwards, Shane Mosley goes on and lands almost the stoppage shot against Mayweather, but proceeds to lose the entirety of the fight, then lose to Manny Pacquiao in a non-competitive fight. And Shane Mosley has been looking done for a little bit of time now, and you wind up getting him against Margarito. Against Alvarez. When Alvarez was undefeated at that time. I don't know what he thought, what he saw, or what he thought he saw in him, but betting $1 million on yourself against a young up-and-coming when you're on the downside of your career was an ill-advised move. I feel for Shane. You know, he had a rough patch with his wife, taking him to the cleaners and the divorce settlements. I only wish, you know, because at one point Shane was an amazing, amazing fighter. He really was. I think he makes the Hall of Fame, most certainly. I think at 135 at lightweight, he was very close to, you know, head-to-head being right up there. You know what I mean? Kind of like the way that I view Lomachenko almost at, let's say, a 126. In his prime, Lomachenko on 126 with that kind of size, with that kind of speed and enough pop, it's going to be very few in history are going to beat him at that weight class. And at 135, Shane Mosley, you guys just don't remember, but oof, yikes. A complete monster. Superb punching skills, speed, power, everything. And the first time I remember them watching De La Hoya versus Shane Mosley, lightning. Again, there's still rumors about Golovkin fighting Canelo next year. Guys, Golovkin's going to be 40. And the last guy he fought was Sharameta. Oof. Can you imagine, Canelo has been, sharp, fighting contenders, champions, about to unify 168. Golovkin, since the Canelo fight, fought Steve Rolls, Deryachenko, where he got his butt kicked, and Sharameta. Those are the last 3 fights in the past 3 years. You want to compare that to Golovkin, to Canelo since Golovkin? Yeah, it's not going to be pretty. Fielding, Jacobs, Kovalev, Smith, Yildirim, Saunders, and now Plant. Canelo almost had a career since the second Golovkin fight, if you really think about it. That's 4 or 5 champs. An undisputed title. I mean, this is... I thought Golovkin won the first fight, and I thought the second fight was a draw. I can see it being as it were. I can see it being a draw in the first fight and a win for Canelo in the second fight. Absolutely. But in the third fight, I just do not see at this age, with how Golovkin has looked, how he's going to fare, even in another year, another 6-7 months. I just don't know, guys. Of course, I know one of my boys has told me, he's like, but look at Bernard. That's true. But I feel Bernard was a different type of fighter. And Bernard also, when he fought against these quicker guys who can really push him to the limit, he did lose Jermaine Taylor twice. The first Pascal fight. You know, Kovalev. Once he's against other boxer types, quick boxer types, his age did show. So, yes, he had an entire career in his 40s. I agree. It was an amazing career. Bernard Hopkins, a Hall of Famer. Is Gennady Golovkin going to do that himself? I don't know. His defense is not horrible. People say Golovkin's defense is horrible. It's not horrible, but he doesn't fight like Bernard Hopkins. What Golovkin does have is that his power is there. He was never a particularly fast guy, so he wasn't one of those fighters that was generating his power due to speed. So his power should still be there. It should still be thudding. It should still be crushing. You know. So... he does have that advantage, but you know, at this point, Canelo hits. He's breaking orbital bones, guys. Now, he still has to get through Caleb Plant, and that's not a guarantee. I feel the casino's giving us plus 400 on Caleb Plant. I'm just gonna take it. Undefeated fighter at 168 naturally. I'm taking it. I'm not saying he beats Canelo. I'm saying, like I told you guys before, plus 400. Please, everybody, please. This is something I'm going to take all the damn time. Yeah. And, you know, I did speak about the Zone earlier. The Zone announced that Parker Chisora 2 is set for December. I like this. You know, if you told me about this fight maybe a year and a half ago, I would have been like, oh, man, there's no way for Chisora. No. This time, I think this is a legit fight. Chisora has looked decent. Chisora has looked decent in the ring recently. He looked very shop-worn, I feel like, maybe even a few fights ago. But now he's in a little bit of like a revival. He really is. I really thought that after he got knocked out by Dillian White, that was going to be it. But no, he's looked decent. He really has. And in the last Joseph Parker fight, I actually thought he won. So, you know, we have the rematch. We have the rematch. You know, in their first fight, I really thought that Parker was gonna win. You know, like I said, I thought he was kind of done. Chisora, yes, he looked decent against Usyk, but he looked decent against Usyk. You know, KO'd Price, and now, you know, what I thought beat Parker the first time. Well, he'll get a rematch. Like I said before, Parker needs to figure something out because, I think Dillian White. I think Derek Chisora has got what it takes to win this fight. Sure, I thought he beat him the first time. I think he'll beat him again. So really awesome. I mean, I'm happy we're gonna get a nice fall into winter lineup. We have a lot of big fights, a lot of good fights. Just super stoked. I mean, like I said, we are living in a golden age of boxing, and the more the kind of fights we see keep happening, the more I think the fans will turn around and will agree with me that we truly are in a boxing golden age. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. A little bit of a short episode tonight, but that's going to be it. I'll see you guys after the weekend. It's over.
I'm going to go home and break my wife's hip.
Don't brag about taking my side piece. Don't brag about taking my side piece, though.
I broke my back. Back is broken. Spinal.
He's strong, man. Good boy, you know, just...